Hello, everybody. Welcome to Smokin Poetry Podcast. Today, I'm your co-host, Sarah Garlick.
And I'm Mike Harris.
That's your host. And today we have Evan Schilling.
Hello. And before we can talk about where we are.
I was going to say, we are sitting at Rock City Cafe. We would not be able to do the podcast today if we were not sitting here. So thank you very much to Rock City Cafe for letting us use their space. They have amazing food. What did you guys eat today?
Well, I had the Rock City Peppers, which is their little... It's like a stuffed pepper with breakfast. It's amazing. It is delicious. And you won't find it anywhere else.
We're actually going to post a picture of all of our food because we're basic.
What was yours decent?
Oh, yeah. I had the brioche dip. It's one of their specials. Best French dip style sandwich I've ever had. Hands down.
No, it looked delightful. I had, what was it? They have it written. A CFS omelet. It was literally country fried chicken. And then bacon and gravy and cheese and amazing. That's all I have to say. So, and everything I've had here is wonderful. So definitely check them out. Thank you guys so much for hosting us today.
And I guess we should talk about who Evan Schilling is a little bit too. Right?
I think that might be a good idea.
Yeah. Who are you?
Yeah. So I'm a comedian. I started about 6-7 months ago. Started doing comedy in the local scene around Colorado Springs, and It's been a ton of fun.
Only a couple months ago?
About 6 months ago.
Wow, that's crazy.
Well, that's performances or actual comedy?
Just actual comedy. That's when I started doing like open mics and such.
Okay.
Gotcha. Did you just start writing as you go then?
So I actually started writing my comedy about 1.5 years ago. I kind of got an idea of just, hey, you know what? Things are funny. Let's write some of these things down. And so I started doing it. But I didn't really take it seriously until probably about 1 year ago or so.
Okay. And then also getting to that step of performing that material.
Oh, yeah. That was a big step for me, is just kind of getting over that little bit of stage fright. Because, like, I have just that tiny bit of stage fright.
It's vulnerable.
It really is. And especially just going up on stage in front of a bunch of people, like, my first open mic was actually a bunch of comedians in the crowd. So it was like the pressure was on.
Yeah, because those are people, that's their expertise. That's amazing.
Why did you start doing that, telling the jokes and performances?
It's actually kind of a long story. So
we don't
do stories here.
So I started off in high school. I went into this engineering school to go to college, and I was going to do computer science. And so this was back in fall of 2020, which, if anyone knows how 2020 went. So I got there, and it was they had pretty much everyone in person. They had a hybrid option, but the majority of people ended up going in person. And so I was trying to hang out with a bunch of people, and I found out that there was a lot of people there that were just the wrong crowd for me to be around. Like, I'm reminded of this time that I tried to play a card game with a bunch of people, and I was dealing out the cards just one by one around the table. Halfway through, the guy across from me brings up string theory, and the entire table erupted into this argument about who's more right about string theory.
I'm afraid to ask. What in the world is string theory?
You think I know?
Oh, goodness.
I don't know, and I don't care what string theory is.
I know, I've heard of it. I couldn't tell you the first thing about it.
All that I know is it's like tiny strings in the air or whatever. I don't know.
Okay.
Is this science, music,
art?
I think it's theoretical physics.
Math.
I've got no clue.
Well, some subcategory of math.
But yeah, and so I just took my cards back and I just left back to my dorm. And about a week after that, I ended up leaving just because of some family stuff that had popped up. And I went back, and turns out a week later, the whole campus was stuck in a COVID outbreak.
Oh my goodness.
And so everyone was shut up in their dorms, and nobody could leave. They were trying to get food to these people, but unfortunately they weren't handling it so well, because in the midst of the pandemic, they weren't expecting a pandemic to happen, is basically what ended up happening.
Oh, goodness.
And so after that, I was pretty much at the lowest point of my life.
Oh my God.
Like, I got real depressed.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually I started doing some DoorDash just because, I needed money.
Absolutely.
And
hey, that'd be the time.
Yeah. It really was. It was the perfect timing. It was spring of 2021, just about the beginning of 2021.
Gotcha, yeah.
And so in the car, I just decided, I'm going to listen to some music. Eventually, I got a little bit bored of listening to the same songs over and over again. So I started tuning into this stand-up comedy station. And that's really what sparked this deep interest in comedy for me. Because, yes, comedy it's fun for me to go up on stage and make people laugh. But the making people laugh part is really what it's all about. Because, to me, comedy is something that can bring people together. And it can get people to smile and be happy, even if just for a little while.
And was that for yourself whenever you were locked in your room?
Exactly.
Yeah. I always say my target audience is myself. If you guys laugh, then it's an added bonus.
But I started doing comedy because I want that. It's almost like I'm giving back to comedy in a way, because it really pulled me out of that depressive state. And so to me, it's almost like I'm giving back to it by putting my hat into the ring and trying to do this for other people.
Wow.
Where have you been performing lately?
So as of lately, I've been performing a lot at the Ultra Flat Black Gallery. Sarah Garlick.
Nice.
Yeah, Sarah Garlick runs it.
Of that
and it's
thing as well, the open mic.
It's a ton of fun.
Yeah, it's awesome having you every week.
Yeah.
You're such a great addition.
And there's such a great sense of community there.
Yes. And it's safe to just test out new stuff.
Exactly. A lot of the open mics that I've been to, it can get a little tense, because most of the times at open mics, you'll see a lot of comedians in the audience, more so people who just watch comedy. Mm-hmm. And so everyone's very critical of each other.
Yes.
And it's this weird dynamic almost of just people who are trying to do comedy but don't want to laugh because maybe they'll think that the other person's funnier than them. It's this weird dynamic. I don't know.
Well, and there's a fine line between being super harsh and critical and also just seeing it as, for what it is.
Exactly.
It's just material. And
if you're not willing to laugh, then you're just there to perform. It's this weird mindset. I always laugh at them. I try to get into the mindset of being an audience member. Exactly. Because being a part of an audience is really about supporting whoever's on stage. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's maybe you don't laugh, but you know what? You're there to support people.
Yeah.
And that's really what I've loved about the Ultra Flat Black Gallery's open mic, because everybody is there supporting each other. And I've met so many awesome people there, not just including you guys.
Yes. That's
but
awesome.
a lot of awesome people I've met there who've probably been on the show.
Yeah, well, I mean, a couple for sure, and
Yeah.
Bound to be more soon. 2, at least, from the Ultra Flat Black Gallery, which is cool. Well, at least I go to the Ultra Flat Black Gallery. That place is very cool. It's a hub for, well, I like it because I've been able to make so many artist friends. I think it's really important to surround yourself with people who are doing the thing that you're doing, because you can advance in your craft. You get inspired a lot more easily. It's not just hey, let me create this from my own brain. Collaboration is so important, and building that community of people that just are open and understanding and honest, but there's that, I was saying, that fine line between being honest and being so harsh and critical. I think that space is where people thrive, is encouragement.
Yeah. And kind of going back to that collaboration thing, I've watched a lot of Netflix comedy specials just because, it's convenient.
What else is there to do?
I mean, especially back in 2021 when COVID was still going crazy. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And what a lot of what you see on Netflix is the main event. It's the headliner. It's the person who draws the people in.
Yeah.
But
an hour,
there's a lot more comedians who go on stage, usually at least 3 or 4, who are just friends of the main comedian. It's all about just getting people together, including other comedians. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I went to a live show from my personal favorite comedian, Gabriel Iglesias, in Dodge City, Kansas, and it was a ton of fun. And I got to see some awesome comedians. I got to laugh a lot. Mm-hmm. It was a ton of fun.
Meet people
Best
you look
moment of
up
my
to.
life. Exactly.
And often I've noticed, I've been to some headliner shows, and sometimes the the guys who come on first, who are not as famous, could be the funniest part of the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's okay. Honestly, that's how I felt at one of because I went to a festival, and it was kind of crazy because I was dancing harder to the people who were earlier in the day versus like the headliner who's been super popular for like 20 years. Although that was the 4th day, I was pretty wiped out. But yeah, like those, I feel like the up and coming seem to be where I like to be the most. Yeah.
So anything funny happened lately in your life that you can...
So, funny you should say that,
well,
Mike.
You take your material from lived experience.
Yeah, all my material that I do, I don't like to write jokes. Like, I don't sit in front of a computer an hour a day and go, what's funny? I take a lot of what I do on stage from my own lived experiences and from just things that happen. Because oftentimes, life is funny if you just look close enough.
What's funny in your life, Evan Schilling?
So, I live at this apartment, right?
Okay.
And I've talked about it before on stage, and anyone who's seen me perform knows I think my apartment is hell. And I have at least a half hour on the apartment alone.
Oh my goodness.
Just because I'm seeing all of these crazy things around the apartment. Things breaking, things that should work when they shouldn't. A coffee machine catching fire and kicking everybody out of the building for an hour and a half.
So how did this happen?
To be honest, I don't know how the coffee machine caught fire other than maybe something with the wiring. I wasn't even in the building at the time. I was in Denver with my cousins, got back to my apartment, and everybody was outside and the fire alarms were going. So I found out later on what had happened, and they needed to replace the coffee machine.
Did they replace it actually though?
I think so.
Oh, cool.
But nobody uses it, so who knows? Maybe the first time someone uses it, it'll just spontaneously combust. I don't know. It's a little terrifying, but it's also pretty damn funny.
So much material on fires.
It's a little concerning, I will admit. Yes. Like I have the amount of material that I have about things catching on fire at the apartment. It's more than it should be.
It is a concerning amount, I will say.
What else is catching on fire?
Well, there was a time that one of my roommates nearly burned down the apartment trying to cook a steak dinner. That is a show I've done on stage.
Yes, I've definitely seen that one.
It was an interesting time. And for some reason, I'm never there when things start to catch fire. I don't know if I'm lucky or just...
You're the common sense they're missing.
I guess.
Maybe bringing in that cold breeze to keep the fumes down.
Evan is the window into all of our souls.
But yeah.
I don't even know what that meant.
You said something earlier, which I want to bring up because I felt it, which is you didn't just, things were great, you started telling jokes. So there was something, I call it therapy. Is that what you would call it in a way?
I mean, I do go see a therapist, but well, yeah, it is in a way kind of therapy because it's like I'm laughing at myself. If you cannot laugh at yourself, you're doing something wrong, in my opinion.
Absolutely, I agree with that.
And comedy very much is this mindset of laughing at things in your life, laughing at the crazy things that happen. Like, yes, acknowledge that stupid things happen and sad things happen, and there are times to grieve and times to mourn.
Absolutely.
But if you're completely diving into the negative about everything, all of a sudden you just find yourself in this low place. And that's what I did for about a year before I started kind of diving into comedy.
Yeah.
And then I kind of took on this mindset of just finding the funny side of life.
Yeah, that's gorgeous. That's what I did with my my songwriting. That's like when I write a song, I take a problem that I have, and by the end of the song, I've usually found some form of a solution or some way to like make myself feel better about it at least. And no, it's not a replacement for therapy, absolutely not. But it's definitely just a gorgeous way of expressing your emotions and getting that form of release.
Yeah.
And it definitely is for me. That's how I started writing my poems. It was strictly to help me get through things, and then and the performances helped too, actually. And I'm still not comfortably called a comedian, but I guess something we kind of do similar.
Branching out into it, yeah.
I think we do similar is we don't necessarily have the typical setup one-liner thing. It's more storytelling, in a way.
Yeah, well, that's why there are multiple avenues to comedy.
Yeah, it's actually a really funny story. I started doing the way I write comedy. I don't write it necessarily. I experience things, and then I have a Google Doc on my phone that I'll open up, and then I'll put like a little title for the event, and then just write a couple of bullet points just to remember it. Mm-hmm. Come to find out, that's basically what Gabriel Iglesias does. He experiences things and then he tells them on stage. He literally said it. He was talking about it in his last special, which was really funny, by the way. Mm-hmm. I reckon it's a ton of fun. Watch it for yourself. It's a really good one.
Yeah, I liked that we got to touch a little bit on your process. Can we dive a little deeper into that?
Yeah. So everything I do on stage is pretty much improvised. Mm-hmm. So like I was talking about earlier, I don't write jokes necessarily. I don't think of setup, lead in, punch. Again, shows how much I know about the process that I can't name the 3 steps.
But it's yours.
Exactly.
So, it works for you.
There's always this lingering fear of accidentally telling a joke that someone else has told before. Mm-hmm. And so the way I get around that is, again, pulling from my personal life, because when you live your life, you're the one who's living it. No one else is living your life for you. And so these stories are mine in a way. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so when I'm telling these stories on stage, I get to laugh along because I've experienced it, and I get to share what I'm laughing about with all these people. So then it's kind of like a secondhand experience.
Yeah.
And it's always a ton of fun to share stories. I love sharing stories.
And you're pretty good at putting the people in the situation as well.
Yeah.
It's like we're living it with you versus just like, hey, this one time.
I'm also glad you said that, because there's so many, and there's how many billion people in the world right now. There's going to be more than one person who come up with the same kind of similar story, just coincidentally, because it's a lot of people.
Well, it's so many, and a lot of us do experience a lot of the same things. I think that's why it's important to speak on things that happen to us, because collectively, I didn't realize how many, musicians, poets, comedians, people who are within this industry pull a lot of that from some form of, not necessarily specifically attributing it to depression, but I know a lot of people who have mental health struggles who produce art, because it's once, like you said, you're at your lowest point, and I don't know if that's your lowest point in life, but a very low point.
That was pretty much my lowest point in life. Yeah.
Yeah, and
just right after I got out of there.
Helped you pull yourself out of that. I've got a song that I put to pull myself out of depression, stuff like that. I didn't realize how many, and so it's cool that we can all interchange that information, because it's cool to see where it draws from.
It was a similar thing for me. It was the lowest point in my life, and I started writing poetry.
Yeah.
And then some people started to like it. Now here we are.
Yeah. I never thought I would lose music in my life, and then I got so sad to the point where it was just gone. And I was like, whoa, that was a big wake-up call of what am I doing with myself? Where are my priorities? So it's cool to...
Yeah, and it's a similar thing for me. I hadn't listened to comedy since I was 13 when I started listening to it in the car.
It was something that interested you when you were younger?
Yeah. And I it's actually kind of funny. I told my mom, I want to be a comedian when I grow up. And she just looked at me like, no, you don't want to do that. And now here I am actually doing it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I feel like there are a lot of it's always the whole of course it's important to be able to sustain yourself while you're doing these things up until you get to a point where you can sustain yourself doing that thing, if that's what you want to do. But everybody, there's that stereotype of get the backup job just in case you don't make it,
Yeah, that's basically what mode my parents are on with this whole thing.
Although,
That's
should we
hard.
talk? Well, though you are doing other stuff than telling jokes, right?
Yeah.
Do we want to tell the people a little more about Evan Schilling and what else you're doing in school and other things in your life?
Yeah,
You do so much.
I go to the University of Colorado, Colorado Springs, and I am a game design major. And
Whoa.
so I spend my nights coding games, which sounds like it would be fun, right? Until you hit that one bug that you've been working on for 3 hours and it will not stop just bugging out. I've had many of those nights.
That sounds a little stressful.
So
It can be.
like I say, for people who don't understand all these terms, like me, what does coding games actually mean? If we could use it in like non too technical jargon.
Yeah.
So everything that happens in a video game, all the movements, all the actions, all the cutscenes, everything, there's lines of code behind it that make the things happen. You can't just drop a thing in a game engine and say, go that way. You have to code this direction, and when user pushes button, go this way.
Okay.
And so when the user suddenly starts going this way, you have to figure out, what did I just do?
What in all of these lines of programming did I...
Yeah, and there
I
could be
say it now.
hundreds.
What did I fuck up?
Yeah, and there could be hundreds of lines of programming. Especially in one of my classes, I'm collaborating on a team, and so when you get these hundreds of lines of code spread across multiple different things within the game, it can get a little tough to find those bugs.
Ooh.
How do you start something like that, like code? I mean, what? I can't even fathom what you're doing exactly.
I cannot either.
So, essentially, a lot of it is looking at documentation and looking at how does code actually work? What can I use? And so, usually, I break it down into, okay, I have this problem, and I generate this kind of process. Like, how would I do this step by step? So, like, if I want a thing to move in this direction, I say, okay, user pushes button, thing goes in this way. And then I just kind of map that to the functions that are there, and it's a lot of coding stuff. There's a lot of coding stuff that I could talk about, but it's the best I can put in kind of simple terms
I'm doing my best
that people who aren't programmers will probably understand, hopefully.
My head's gonna explode here, but
I know, I was sitting here scrunching my eyebrows.
Oh, just wait till I get to wild statements.
See, no, we're having...
now we go back to jokes.
But yeah,
That's
like,
awesome. It's
and-
very intriguing.
yeah, and it was actually a very big change of pace from at my engineering school when I was doing computer science, because when you're doing game design, you're thinking of a lot more than just the code that you're putting there.
True.
You're also thinking of, how is this going to be fun? How is this going to be engaging? And in a way, it's kind of what I'm doing with comedy. It's like, okay, how do I take this story that has happened, how do I kind of mix the words into putting it out there in the best way possible so that people can kind of laugh along?
Yes, yeah, because like you were saying earlier, if I don't know if you said this on camera or off camera, it's kind of but you were talking earlier about how sometimes the way that you like form your setup affects the punchline and can make it more funny or less funny depending on how you do it.
Yeah. And that's always a challenge that comes up whenever, improvisation can get a little tricky at times. And so it's all about practice. And that's what I love about these open mics is you get the practice and you get to tell these jokes and you get to refine them and you get to work through them before they would ever see a camera or an actual show.
Are you working towards any of that kind of stuff lately, or what's been going on there?
Right now is very much in that early stage of just getting the jokes together and getting material set up and ready to go.
Yes.
I'm hoping, hopefully sometime in the next year, I really want to start booking shows because comedy is kind of, in my mind, it's kind of my calling in life. I've loved doing it every step of the way.
But if we want to see you, where can we find you performing?
Yeah, so most Tuesdays you'll find me at the Ultra Flat Black.
Ultra Flat Black, all right. Okay.
But yeah, it's a ton of fun, and it's also the only weeknight that usually has an open mic that I get off from school.
Nice.
But I'm also, I've got my Instagram, and I don't usually post, like, actual bits on there as of yet. I'm still editing stuff, But eventually I will, and I'll usually, hopefully, like, probably a bit more recent coming up here, I'll probably start posting where I'm going to be performing and when, just so that people can get together. I did that over the winter break, and that got a bunch of people I knew back in high school together. And oh boy, some stories were told.
What stories were told?
Okay.
Oh, you'll have to wait until you see him on stage, my friend.
Oh my goodness! What is your handle again on Instagram? Or where
At
can we find you?
EvanJS225.
Cool.
Yep, and then I'm also going to be working on building a
Linked in the
website. It's still a huge work in process. Hopefully within the next couple of weeks, I should have something. But it's a work in progress.
Cool, yeah.
Any other teasers for us to get everyone to convince them to click and watch?
Honestly, if you want to just have a night where you can have fun without having to spend a ton of money, go to one of these open mics. Calling out to the audience out there, go to an open mic. Trust me, it's going to be a ton of fun.
Amazing people reside there.
Exactly.
Artists are like my favorite kind of people to hang around, honestly, and to work with.
Me too. What else do we want to talk about?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so you do school and you do some door dashing. I know you do that, and you do comedy, and that's about what consists of the life of Evan Schilling.
That's a lot. Yeah, like it's very interesting being a full-time student, still trying to do comedy, and then also juggling actually working and making money. Because gotta eat, right?
You have to eat more than ramen every single day, right?
Yeah, you don't become rich the first time you tell
I have not eaten ramen in at least a month. Yeah. We're going to be getting to that point soon because I'm running out of food, but...
Yes. Oh, my goodness. Donate to the Evan Schilling Fund.
Ramen Fund.
Don't have a GoFundMe as of yet, but we'll see in the next month.
Make sure Evan Schilling eats. That's awesome.
Yeah, we'll have to get some donations set up there for you.
Call the
ramen
hotline.
Donations.
Call the hotline linked below.
1-800
Evan eats. Wait, Evan eat. That would be.
Yep, that's Evan.
Okay.
That's silly. That's super silly.
Yeah.
I was going to say I had an idea in my head earlier, and then we were messing around, and I forgot it. We'll go somewhere else for a minute. It'll come back.
The studio audience want to hear anything else?
Got any questions?
Yeah. What other fun things?
Any burning questions that you may have for me? Ooh, that's another thing I can talk about. I've been thinking about going...
Thanks for your contributions.
Well, you got him to
We'll
get back to it. But I've been thinking about possibly doing voice acting because I love doing funny voices, and I'm working on integrating that into my comedy because I love doing the funny voices.
Just randomly. That's the best part. I think that's what makes life interesting.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well,
anyways, anything from the studio audience?
You should talk more about that voice acting. That's a good line.
That's a good avenue.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
Well, you got anything for us?
We've got a friend who knows a lot about the industry.
I'm working on a fan project right now with a bunch of friends of mine. We're doing a fan dub of a video game. I don't know when it's gonna come out, quite frankly, but we'll see what ends up happening.
Instagram, because you're putting all your stuff there.
Yeah, we'll see what ends up happening with that. It's been in production for a few months now, so we'll see what ends up happening on that front. But
Rome was not built in a day.
it really is just another creative outlet for me. Like, that's where I've been finding all of these really fun things that I like to do, is just these creative outlets. Because I love being creative. Like, back at my engineering school, I was very creatively stifled because everything was very strictly code for business purposes. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really have a creative outlet. And so when I started doing comedy and I did a bit of writing and I did just the funny voices, I really started finding those creative outlets that really made me happy. And eventually, it kind of compounded into, let's make other people happy. Let's make other people laugh. Let's have some fun.
How beautiful.
How many voices do you
Good.
have? You like categorized voices? What do you?
Oh, I just do voices. I play D&D, and so when I'm behind the dungeon master screen, I will do whatever voices I need to have some fun.
Yes.
What's a dungeon
you're
master?
Telling a story.
Yeah, give me a dungeon master. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
so-
Do you know what a
Indeed,
dungeon master is?
I do not know what a dungeon master is.
So
What is it?
in D&D, you have your players, and then
Dungeons
you have the
and Dragons, for
Yes.
those of you who don't know.
you have the players who are all the characters and stuff that they walk around, cast spells, burn villages, whatever they do.
Whatever you want.
And
It's
then
your own
there's the
fantasy
guy
world.
behind the screen that kind of controls the world, that says what ends up happening, what's around the players.
He's telling the story.
Mm-hmm.
He's the narrator.
Oh.
And so, like, you get to introduce characters, you get to make stuff up as you go. We had a hand raise.
We have the studio audience is excited now. What do we got?
Since you said something, so you go to UCCS, right?
Mm-hmm.
UCCS.
Are you taking advantage of like the communities and groups and clubs to access funding for like your project?
Whoa.
Yeah.
I've been looking into it. I've heard about a comedy club supposedly on campus. I haven't seen it as of yet. I'm still looking for it.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of my downtime is really dedicated to going to open mics and,
Yeah.
well, homework.
That might
also.
be an avenue to explore as well, though.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it's something that I've been thinking about for a while, just looking into it.
Even if you had to start it yourself.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's smart, too. And you could get funding from your school. You know what? You could probably go ask about that. Be like, hey, what's going on with this? And if not, then take that
I'm
step,
actually
that
taking
incentive.
a course called Technical Writing and Proposals, which is
Technically
basically
write and propose this comedy class.
well, basically what the course is how to beg for money
Oh, my God.
for a cause. Like that's the long and short of it.
Yeah.
Well, you need to have a voice for that. That's what we need to figure out. Let's put on a thing to get this ramen fund going. What's a good voice for this? Let's beg for money.
Citizens of the world, I am starving. Please provide me money and you will hear this silky smooth voice for another 3 minutes before I eventually succumb to starvation. Thank you.
The arms of
We're gonna get a copyright strike!
Sorry, guys. I also just screamed in your freaking ear. I might have to edit this out.
No, we like screaming in ears. It's funny.
Okay.
No one will ever know.
What a
Especially not Mariah
delight.
Carey.
Oh my goodness. Is that? I don't even know who sings that, so that's funny.
And no one will have to.
Yeah. Evan Schilling, it's been such a delight getting to know you more today.
Oh, it's been a ton of fun being here. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure. And we will be seeing more of each other, and you will be seeing more of us because you're all going to come and see us and we follow.
And
the
we're out and
stuff.
about and doing all the above. I've got Evan Schilling's social media. Everything you guys need is in the link below. So thank you guys for tuning into Smokin' Poetry Podcast.
See you next time.
Have a good one.
Okay, cool. Wait. Stop!
This might be the best part of the show. Getting the stop button to work.
Please!
Bonus